Okay, I've done videos kind of like this in the past, but this is a fresh one just to make it simpler and kind of show you the workflow I use in Ableton. A lot of people come into Ableton and use the session view. And the session view is cool when you're just trying to build a loop or a bunch of loops and you just don't, maybe you don't even know what you want. Maybe you drop in some drums and try to get inspired. For me, I come into it wanting to play just chords and stuff first, typically, and then I find my way in through it, right? On the basis of what I'm doing. So for instance, here's Scalar connected to this piano, which is Spitfire Audio's Intimate Piano Grand. And then I just picked some chords in Scalar, right? There's some chords, some jazz, dark jazz chords, boom. And now I'm just gonna play around. There's a bunch of chords in here, right? And I'm gonna find what I like. I may not know the tempo right out, but I'm gonna guess by tap tempo. I'm gonna do the tap tempo. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 75 BPM. We'll rock with that. All right. So the BPM set, I arm the record on the key track, and then I'm just gonna play. Okay. So you see I did, what is this, 12 bars basically? So in those 12 bars, something in there is loopable or something that I like, right? So let's listen to it. I like that. All right, so let's say I like that section. I'm gonna highlight that section that I like. Is that where I actually started, or did I start here? Yeah, I'm sorry. So there to there, and I'm gonna drag it over here. And I'm gonna get rid of this first section because I didn't like it. And we'll listen to this last section, or this section. Okay, what I don't like in this one is this portion, but I want to use this as like a sort of like a bridge. It could be a bridge or it could be an intro. I'm gonna actually leave it for the intro. It's fine. So you see, all I did was go inside the loop, delete the parts I don't like. Now I'm gonna consolidate. I consolidate everything by hitting Command J on that, and then I come over to this loop and I hit Command J. Right? This is going to be the intro chords. So I'm going to call this, rename it. Oh, might be good to right click, rename. I like to name all my stuff so I don't forget what it is, because it's on the same track. And then this one is going to be renamed to chords main. Boom. So now I have two parts. If you want to color it different, that helps you too, because some people are more visual, like with color. Let's do this light blue. So there you go. So now you can see there's two parts to here. So I just built the main part, which I will double it by hitting Command D, right? And now I have the intro part. I know there's some DAWs that let you label it up top. I don't really need that. I just want to label the actual file so that I can move it around and know if I want that there or wherever I want it. And it's labeled now. So these are key chords. Here's the files. Okay. So now I may be at the point where I want to do a bridge, or I want to do something else. I want to start doing some drums, but I don't want to do drums over the intro. So All you have to do is command, like, let's say this is the one you want to loop, hit Command L, and it loops that section. If you want to do two of them, hit this one, hit Shift, and then hit Command L, and it'll loop that section. Or you can drag the loop if you feel like it. The key commands to me are everything in making music, because they speed up your workflow. And when you go faster, you'll enjoy it more because you're not spending so much time trying to figure things out. So learn your commands. The overlay is what helped me to teach me the commands. You guys see the overlay here. I actually need a new one. I'm hoping to get one for, because I wore out my command button. I have 2 command buttons, thankfully, on the MacBook. But I'm hoping to get one for Ableton Live 12 when it drops. Maybe. We'll see if I even need it. But I might get a new one just because this one's starting to get old. I'm worn out. Anyway, most of the commands I know now. I don't really need them, but I like this little layover. Just kind of cool. Anyway, so there's that. Now let's say now I feel like I want to go ahead and put some drums in. There's so many ways to build drums in Ableton. I mean, from the sense of you could do it audio-wise, you could do MIDI. Depends on what you want. I typically use MIDI, and I want to use audio because I like it, but the problem is sometimes, like, I'll show you the difference, what I mean. Let's do the snares first. So we'll pick some snares. I'm going to pick a kit here. Now, a lot of people use, where is my, no, not that kit. There it is. A lot of people will use, I'm going to use these filthy drums. Okay, here's a kit. So I have 3 MIDI tracks set up: kick, snare, hat. These 2 things down here are percussion things that I use to help me develop percussion. But if I'm on the snare, I just usually drop a snare into here. I can chop it a little bit how I want it, set it at a 1 shot. Boom. And now, oops, if I click on the snare, I have the snare across. And this is the reason why I don't use the drum sampler. I mostly use this because in a song, like if I want, this is simpler in a song. If I want a different pitch of that, the drum rack, as far as I know, there may be a way to set it up, but I don't see a way in there where I could actually play it all the way up the keys. Now, that would be amazing if Ableton did that. Like allow the drum rack, each one to be able to play all the way up the keys. So for me, this is the better way to do it. The limiting part of this though is you can't play your drums at the same time. So if you're the kind of person where you want to play your kick, snare, and your hat together, then you're going to have to use a drum rack. This is more for when you just want to play one of them. Some people don't even play drums. This is what they do. They will come in, say, okay, I like that sample, and they'll drag the sample to a track, and they'll just place it on the 2. You see the 2 up here? Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on a second. Did that mess me up? No. They'll place it here, and then what they'll do is they'll just duplicate it and then place it on the 4, and then they'll highlight it. Wait, that's not placed right. Hold on a second. Place it on the 2 and the 4, right? And what I mean by 2 and 4, here's a bar, right? 5 to 6. 5.2 is your 2. 5.4 is your 4. And then they'll just highlight this and then duplicate it all the way across. Boom. What I like to do is, if I'm going to do this method here, well, first off, I'm going to crop the sample, right? Which you can crop inside here. I like to go in and adjust the volumes of them so that maybe one snare hits there, so it's not the same, right? All the way through. Crop the sample. Maybe adjust that one down just a little bit. Now with MIDI, you don't have to do all this extra work. Now, I call it extra work because that's what it feels like when you're doing that. So when you're doing this, you have to do it. Now you just do all the way across, and you got... That takes longer, and I get it. Like if you want to do audio and you just want to drag it in and drop it, You can drag it in and drop it, do that method. So putting it on a MIDI track, like you see here, this is the MIDI track. You can now play it and get those very velocities because you're playing on a MIDI control. Or if you don't play on a MIDI control and you want to play on the actual thing, you go up here, you press keys. I'm not keys. You press this MIDI symbol right here. And now you can see my hands hitting here. You can play it here. So watch this. That's all I'm gonna do. And then you can delete what you want. Boom, put them together, Command D, select one. And then when you select them all, Command J. Command D and Command J are like two, and Command Z is undo. So you learn those little shortcuts and it's quick. Now you have them in here. Hit Command A to select all of them. And there is a randomized velocity setting. So you can randomize the velocity. Hit the randomize button and you see adjusted all the velocities. You can also randomize the range of velocity, which is nice. Or put it in a certain range so it'll go up, it'll adjust. If maybe one snare is a bit too loud, maybe drop it down a little bit. Like that, however you want to do. Now you have this. Okay, so now you can adjust that. Maybe you want, so you can select all, you can select one, you can put it in different pitches. With MIDI, you have a little more control over it versus just dropping a sample in there. So now you got that, then you go up and you find, let's do a quick one here, find some drums. I'm gonna take that one. And all you have to do is drag it over to this and then drop it. And boom, it's there, right? I dragged it to the top of here, hold it for a second, and then it'll pull that track up and then you just drop it in. Boom. So now you go up here, you have the arm here. Same principle, find the pitches you like. If you want to filter it a little bit to make it muffled or make it like lo-fi sounding. So now hit the record. Command Z if you have a set loop, and then you'll have it there. Now let's say you're off on a note. You can always Command U to quantize it. You can leave it the way it is. I usually set mine to a 30-second grid. Then I'll quantize sometimes. Now, I've shown this in the previous video on my return tracks. These are the returns. I usually put the effects I like. So you see they're all on there. Okay, I don't need return track D. I don't even know why it's on there. What's on return track D? Nothing. All right, so we'll get rid of that one. So you'll see I have like the RX 950, the Wolf compressors, which is like for my 303 type vibe. And then on the drum bus, I usually just keep a Kalen effects on there. And then, which is nothing on it, but if I decide to put some on it. And then I have my favorite reverb, which is the Valhalla Vintage Reverb. And I keep, this is a preset called Drum Air and 10%. And so I do that even on other stuff. I'll use like a little ambient air drum or ambient reverb like on desktop. And then to put it on there, because you see the send is already set up, all the sends, all I have to do is just add a little bit here, add a little bit to the snare, add a little bit to the hi-hat once I get the hi-hat in there. And now it gives that little stale kind of, not stale, but that little kick, a little air, right? Now there's other ways to do that. I'm not going to get into that. This isn't a class, but the plugin Knock has some an air feature on there. You can use it, which his stuff is really good too. All right, so let's grab a hat. We'll use this one. So again, the hat, same principle. I usually drop the hat here. I don't think it did it. Hold on a second, let me see. Oh, you know why? Because I accidentally made this a, sorry, I messed up my template there. Let me go insert a MIDI, change it to red. I usually get my drums and everything in red. I accidentally put, I don't know if you remember when I was showing you dropping the sample on there. I put a wave file. If you drop a wave file in there, it'll change it to a, audio file versus MIDI. Sorry for the lack of moment there. So let's say the sample's too loud. There's two ways to turn it down. There's a volume over here. It's already set at -12, but I usually just drop the gain right here. There's a little gain for the sample. I like it around -12 over here. So it drops the gain. Koala, you can do this too. You just drop the gain, right? It's the same principle. All right. Now, one thing they don't have on here, you can add in a feature to do note repeat. So a lot of people will draw that stuff in. I do note repeat in Koala to get the velocity varied, but I'm not really using note repeat on Koala. Well, maybe I use it, but as much, but not when I'm on here. I'll just add it in. But anyway, I'll show you that later. That's a whole nother topic. All right, so here you go. Start recording. Oh, Command Z to just get back. You have to set the marker back where you want it. All right, here we go. Stop it, Command Z. Then that puts you. So I use loops in this way, I guess. I guess that is still technically using a loop. But when I start out, you'll see I'm not using a loop. I'm building just a bunch of stuff and then finding the loop within that. And then when I find the loops, then I start doing the loop arrangement portion. And you could do that over here, but the problem is I don't like the way it looks over here. It confuses me more as to what I'm doing. And plus I have to go back and still adjust the loop either way because I'm never perfect on my timing, right? Which is okay. Another thing you can do here is, again, you can go in and randomize the velocity if you want. I usually do a little bit of the velocity range change. That sounds funny, velocity range change. Just so it gives it some variation. Now I take off the click because I don't want the click will drive me crazy otherwise. All right, and then I can add my percussion. So this is like the basic way I build a track. Sometimes I'll do the percussion first, and I might start with a percussion. I might build a percussion loop using UVI. You don't need UVIs to do stuff to do this. I'm not gonna sit here and I don't try to sell you something. If you get it because you like it, cool. If you don't, I ain't sweating. I just want you to know you don't have to buy something just to buy it. So I'm going to show you UVI again. I think I've shown this a million times. It should be paying me now. You can start with a preset if you want or not, and then start. Start adjusting. Like these are randomizing these right here, presets portions. if you don't like a sound that's in it. These are pretty cool. So now all I have to do, I'm pressing this. You see this red one here? That's controlling everything. This one controls individual parts. And these are just the sounds. You can play the sounds, right? So that's all it's doing. So I'm going to just put a loop here. You see how I just clicked and it built a loop? And see how it'll just keep looping like that? Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to highlight a section and go Shift Command M, which builds a loop, right? And then all I have to do is do that. That's how you build a loop, right? Now you're just building, you highlight a section, Shift Command M and build a loop. Now if I want to put them together, I put them together, Command, and now you have everything together. Command U if you want to quantize to make sure it's on. I'm not using this because this is not something that I want on this particular track. I'm just showing you how you can put your percussion in. If you don't like that, and you let's say you don't have those programs, how would you do it? Well, you go find a loop, right? A percussive loop or a sample. I'm gonna put this one here. All right, you found a sample that you like, and you say, "Oh, this is cool." And then you warp it, right? I like to warp my stuff. Now I want to make it at least that, so I'm gonna go Command J. And then we're going to warp it and pull this out like here, maybe. There we go. Make a bunch of copies. Command J, connect them, see? And now you can just turn the volume down if you want. Super simple. Want more copies? Command D all the way across till you get enough, right? Now that's using the audio and mixing it with MIDI. The audio is going to sound louder to you. Yes, that's true. The MIDI, you have more adjustment. So that's how I look at it. The audio sounds louder, but the MIDI, you have way more adjustability on things. I'm going to add into some reverb to that. And I'm going to put the sample portion of it up on all of these to make it sound like it's sampled. That's using the RX 950. I'm going to turn it down about halfway. And you'll see this is still loud to me, so I'm going to turn it. This is my, you can go to the mixer over here, or you can just stay on the arrangement view and it's right here. And the new one, you'll be able to just get everything on one page, so you don't have to even jump back and forth. But tab, if you use the tab button, that's all you got to do on your computer. Just tab back and forth till you get there. And you'll have to go in and adjust volumes and stuff. That's just part of mixing. Some basic mixing stuff. So that's my, let's say that's my main loop, but then I want this bridge part that I was talking about. You can go anywhere on the arrangement and build it. It doesn't have to be right here. So I'm going to click here. I'm just going to turn off the loop. It doesn't really matter. I'm going back to the piano and I'm just going to find something completely different. right, so there I found what I want. I just listen, find it, turn the metronome on. Now I'm gonna press record. All right, cool. That's a 4-bar loop right there. I'm not even gonna go in and adjust it. So let's say this is gonna be, by the way, I'm just making this up really fast. Rename chords, and we'll call it the bridge. Boom. So now I have the part. If I want to put a little color to it that varies a little bit, I'm gonna. Well, I usually wouldn't go that color, but let's see if that one's. Okay, there you go. So there's the bridge. So let's say, and you see the variations in colors. They kind of help you see where 4 bars is and etc. So let's say that the drum, everything played out. This was going to be, let's do this here. Let's say this, and I'm just making this super simple. Okay, and then I want that to be the bridge. I'm going to lengthen this. Command L, right? Turn it back on. And now, excuse me, the chorus might have some more parts to it, but check it out. Then it'll go into the bridge. Let's turn this metronome off. All right, so one thing I don't like about this part already, I'm gonna go Command All. I want this whole thing pulled down. It's really loud. So let's see. That might be too low though. Okay, adjust maybe whatever notes you want, and maybe you feel it could be adjusted. This is just a sample. I didn't want this video to be long, but when you're showing music making and this kind of any of these methods, sure, I could put together some sample loops that are just exactly perfect and throw them together. But when you're making music from scratch, you have to, and I say from scratch, even though I'm using scalar, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not just dragging in a loop, dropping it, and dragging another loop, drop it. You have to put a little effort in it, okay? Takes a little effort. This may not be the bridge that I really want, but I'm just doing something to see what it feels like. It's a 4-bar. So these are all 4 bars, right? I didn't make, but you saw when I started, I had this long, almost 16 bars, and I just went in and copy out only the parts that I really wanted. If you listen to the beginning, here's the intro. So maybe I want to build a bass. I use Trillion for my bass. That is my favorite. If I'm not actually playing a bass, then this is my, and pretty much most of my tracks, I go to this. I use like this Petrucci R&B bass. There's a million bass you can use. I mean, come on now. You click on instrument, type, whatever you want, pick the type of bass you want. This is used in Trillion. Again, whatever you have, use what you have. You don't need to have this. But I like real, that's a muted bass. I like a real muted bass sound. Oh, sorry. So I'll put that on the track and one of the things I always tell people to do too, I'm gonna minimize scalar so it's not taking up so much space, is go in and learn, if this is the chord progression you use, like B Dorian, and you don't know the scale, these right here is the scale, right? It's the blue ones. Everything in blue is the scale. So learn. Learn the scale real quick. It's only 7 notes. And I've said this in other videos, most of the scales are 7 notes, right? So learn those 7 notes that make that scale, And then once you get that, now you know what bass notes to play. So now you can go in and play the bass part. If you want another cheapskate way to do it, is just go into the chords and pull the root note off the chord, right? Whatever that root note is, that's a easy way to get the bass line. Otherwise, I sometimes, depend on what I want my bass line to sound like, how intricate, how, I will just play the bass. Okay, and I didn't record that, but that's what MIDI capture is for. MIDI capture is capturing what I play in the background. So here it is. Even though this note here is way off. Oops. So I don't know. I don't know what I want the first note to be honest with you. I'd probably make that longer. So there you go. That's me just playing for 8 bars. Duplicate it if you want it. I'm not making this song for the keep. I'm just making this song to show you what I would do in making a song, if that makes sense. So there you go. So that's my basic technique of making a song. There's other stuff I do. Sometimes I'm using Serato Sampler. If I drop a sample in Serato Sampler, I'm not going to show you right now. Excuse me, my voice is going out. Drop a sample in, no matter what the sample is, then I'll chop it up, right? And then play it back through Serato Sample and then bounce that down to audio. You could do that method, or you could just drag the sample in and just build it straight on the top. Ableton is really good with audio, okay? So I don't even know what this is. So if you just drag a sample in and you just want to manipulate that sample, Command E, by the way, chops wherever the slice marker is. You could go in and warp this, like do like a texture warp. Put some grains in it. Whatever you want to do. Chop it up, change it, double time it. I'm just messing around with stupidity right now, but I'm just showing you that you can do it with audio. But for those that like MIDI, you can jump in and do it with MIDI. So you got all of it right in one place, and it's just use the stuff to your advantage. Usually on here when I'm mixing, I do stuff simple like drop the volume down 6 because that bass is pretty loud. I find that a lot of the Trillion and the Keyscape stuff is really loud. I set my favorites over here. And one of my favorites is the glue compressor with the bass punch. It's a preset called bass punch in parallel. And then I'll usually side chain the kick there, so that way the kick has its moment. That is definitely not the best bass line, but whatever. Track here is set to scalar, but I usually put it on all. Then I might throw in, let's say I want to put in, you guys have seen me make songs. If you heard my music, you've heard me use ample sound guitars or whatever. So it's not always keys on here. Right, so you can play over it. And if I forget, then I just hit the MIDI capture and grab it, right? One of the things that's cool about Ableton that people sleep on is that you can highlight just this section and literally grab it and move it around or whatever you want. You can move MIDI and audio actually very similar. It's so easy. Or if you just want to copy a section, like if I just want this, you highlight the section, hit option and grab the top, and then you can move that there and you still have it here. You can add, it's so fluid in the way it works with regards to audio and MIDI that I feel like no matter which one I work with, I can do whatever I want. And that's one of the reasons why I use it. And yeah, there's just a lot. That sounds like a bad note. And it is a bad note because it's not in the scale. Which is okay. Bad notes are okay sometimes too if they sound good. If they sound great. So when I do solos, this is an example of like playing a solo or a lead over something. I rarely quantize this ever. Actually, I never do. I'll be honest with you. I just play it. If it feels good, it's good. If it doesn't feel good, delete it, redo it, and get another take. That's my method because I like live playing stuff. But if you're doing synth stuff and it needs to be spot on or it needs to be like on the grid, do what you got to do. Change the grid. You can right click and adjust the grid however you want it to be. But I'm a firm believer, if you're doing jazz, hip hop, R&B type stuff, don't focus on the grid so much as, make it just sound good, okay? Because it's about feeling more than it is just putting something on a grid. I get it on the IDM, EDM type music where it is more about being on the grid and less about the swing and the vibe and the feel. It's more about the hit and where the preciseness of the hit. Anywho, that's my way of building a track. I just wanted to show you. I'll save it just as a YouTube video project in case somebody wants to ask me a question about it. But I didn't get into mixing and adding extra effects on stuff and embellishing stuff. I'm not going to do that because some of that is just per taste and not necessarily. I will say this. If you use Ableton, make sure you do collect all and save, especially if you're going to use audio. Any audio files can get lost if you don't. Make sure you do collect all and save, basically save. It'll ask you to name the file. I'm going to name this one YouTube vid project. And then I'll put today's date, which is the 19th of January, 2024. There you go. That doesn't even spell project. Might be good to spell stuff right too. That usually helps. Okay, there you go. Save it. And I don't keep any deletions. If I removed it, there's a reason. I don't need it in the temp file. I don't want to store extra stuff. So there's you go. There's you go. There you go. Kind of using like the same chords for the verse and chorus. I probably would add something additional to the chorus to make it its own unique thing. Sometimes I will do two bass lines. I'll do a bass line for the chorus and a bass line is for the verse. Maybe the bass line for the verse will be more subtle and follow the chords, and maybe this one will be more, have a little extra, spice to it, whatever. Just figure out what you like to do. It's just building a song. So you're building parts. So I am working in loops to some degree, but I don't start that way. Because when I start with loops, I find myself trapped in that loop. Once I get the loops, the parts to the loops that I need, then I explore even more. Then I start looking for ways to make it a little bit different. Drop the kicks out here, maybe on this part to give it some variety, right? Drop the shaker out too. And now you have stuff like... things like that. If I don't like the beginning of a part, I'll move it and then move this around wherever I want it. The good thing about MIDI is if you adjust the tempo too, it's not, you don't have to worry about it. With the audio, it's the same thing. You don't have to really worry about it. Once you set the audio where you want it to be, then it'll warp to that and adjust. So you can warp it or move it or however you want to do. All right. Don't fear Ableton. Just get into it. Start with the free version. The intro version is probably what most people need if you have other VSTs. If you want the sweet version, I'd say get it on sale when you can find it on sale. If you can find an older version where somebody will sell you the license, buy the license, and then you can upgrade later. That's the good part about that, is all the upgrades are available to you. Yeah. So that's it for this video. It was way longer than what I expected. I thought I was going to end it sooner, but I wanted to show you guys that one day, excuse me, I'll get on here and I won't even use a keyboard. I'll just build it. Well, I'll use a keyboard, but I'll build it from just this keyboard to show you. If you just have a laptop, you can do the same thing with the laptop. It is just about, working on building skill and your ear. But most of it, honestly, is your ear. Once you hear it, you can play it, and then you're good. All right? That's it for this video. I'm out.